From the Center for the Study and Teaching of Writing at The Ohio State University, this is Writers Talk. I'm Doug Dangler. Today I am at the 2013 Ohioana Book Festival, and I'm talking to Liz Coley, a teen and young adult writer who has written short fiction featured in Cosmos magazine, a novel, Out of Xibalba, and a contemporary psychological thriller, Pretty Girl 13. Ta-da!
Ta-da!
And so welcome to Writers Talk and talking about your books today.
Thank you. Well, this Pretty Girl 13 is a story about secrets that you can't even tell yourself.
Okay.
And it features a girl who disappeared at the age of 13 and finds herself back in her neighborhood 3 years later with absolutely no memory of what's happened to her, where she's been, or even the fact that she's been gone. She still believes she's 13 in her mind.
Okay.
And so it's a journey of discovery, recovery.
All right. So what made you, how did you start work on the book? Is it something that you had read about or just appeared to you whole cloth?
This was interesting. It was sort of the collision of a title and a character and a question. I had thought about writing a book featuring a protagonist with dissociative identity disorder, which is multiple personality disorder, its former name. I'd been thinking about that for a while, but I didn't know what the story would be. At the same time, I'd been reading some scientific articles about memory, the seed of memory, how memory works, and then also about traumatic memories and how the military is trying to deal with post-traumatic stress disorder, and whether you can do memory manipulation. And so the question was, if you had a choice about whether to remember or forget the most traumatic things that ever happened to you, what should your choice be? Would it be better to remember or forget them? Mm-hmm. And in the case of people with dissociative identity disorder, they've compartmentalized the memories of the worst things that have ever happened to them so that the core personality remains untouched by them. And so that's the story with my protagonist. And the way that the title came to be is that I had one of those proverbial shower moments that authors talk about, where I pictured a book with the cover PG-13, and then I thought, what could that stand for? That could be Pretty Girl 13. And then I thought, oh, that sounds like the name of an alternate personality. And then there was the big poof moment where the whole story basically jumped into my head all at once.
All in the shower.
All in the shower.
Okay, all right. Well, at least your shower scene is PG-13.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. Which
yes,
is.
yes.
I'm sorry. That was. So it appeared to you, and then you just outlined it. What was the process for the rest of the book?
Then I did a lot of research. So I read some autobiographies of people with dissociative identity disorder. I read scientific articles about memory and about what they call neuromodulation, which is being able to turn genes and neurons on and off in your brain, which is actually going on in the laboratory right now. It's used in animal models to cure epilepsy and Parkinson's disease, and which is fascinating, and they're trying to move towards human trials for those. And I thought, well, what if those techniques could be applied to the actual seats of memory? So I researched all of those possibilities as well. And then, since I do National Novel Writing Month in November of every year, I had to wait. I had all of this information just pent up in my head. And on November 1st, I hit the page running.
So why is it, because you felt you had to participate in a certain way, that you've got all this ready, but you're not going to talk about it yet?
Yeah, that's what I do. And I think that building the energy behind wanting to tell a story so badly that it bursts out of you helps my creative process.
Okay. What does that mean for what else gets done in November? Are you able to do anything else during that month when you're writing the novel?
I don't clean the house. I forget to pay the bills. Yeah, a lot of stuff goes by the wayside in November. And the tricky part is that Thanksgiving comes in the middle of it. When you do NaNoWriMo, you commit to trying to write 50,000 words in the month of November, which works out to 1,666 words a day. And so if you take off that Thursday for Thanksgiving and maybe the day before because company has come into town, you have to make up for that with other really productive days.
Do you have ways of making people feel the weight of that if they visit you, where you say, well, I'd really like to talk to you, but I'm 1,000 words short, get out?
Yeah, they understand that.
Okay.
They do. But I try to prepone the words and get ahead of myself a little bit before Thanksgiving.
That seems like, a really difficult way to write? Because like you're saying, there's sort of this psychological difficulty of waiting and delaying, and then that tremendous pressure all in 1 month.
I think that the upside of it for me is that when you're writing that intensely and in such a concentrated way, you start tapping the well of your subconscious in ways that you can't even imagine. And there were points where I woke up in the middle of the night and thought I was my protagonist. You are so deeply in your story. Yeah, it was really scary. But you're so deeply in your story that it changes the way you write.
Okay. So do you feel then that this book has a different way of writing than you're out of Xibalba?
It was actually, this is out of Xibalba, which I self-published because it doesn't really fall into any good marketing niche, and my agent didn't think she could sell it into this market, but it's the book of my heart. And I know it was the exact same process. I did research all the prior summer on Mayan culture and started thinking about my characters ahead of time, but I didn't have an outline. I just hit the page running on November 1st and started writing.
So, as you're one of the people that I guess we can call it organic, right?
Definitely.
You're not an outline person. How much difficulty does that cause you in having to say rewrite or drop things because you realized, I'm going down a road I don't want to go down?
The thing it mostly hurts me in is when I get to the end of my book, and there's sort of a rush to finish because of the process of NaNoWriMo. My sister, Rachel, is my first reader, and I will send her my first draft, and she'll say, that's not the place it ends. That's not the correct ending. So
Wait a minute, she gets to decide that? That doesn't seem
fair. And her instincts are usually really good, because she's a very smart reader. So while I'm in the writing process, I'll have landmarks. I'll know that by the end of chapter 3, I want this to be the crisis, and I'll know that by the middle of the book, this is what's going to go wrong. And usually, what I don't have the most, I may even know the final ending, but how to get from the sort of 3/4 point to the end is the part that I need to work on the most.
Okay. Were you, since you had brought up your sister when you were younger, were you the storyteller and she was the listener, and that was part of the dynamic? Because that sounds like what it is now. Is that something that has been a stable influence for you?
Possibly. There's 7 years age difference, so I was definitely the big sister. And while I don't remember this, it wouldn't surprise me if someone said, "Yeah, you told us when we played stuffed animals. You told us what was supposed to happen." That wouldn't surprise me.
And that's where she determined that Winnie the Pooh should be further along in these stories. And that's I have to say I don't recall anyone ever saying that there's an external person that can say this isn't where it ends.
Yeah.
So that's a really interesting thing that obviously is working for you.
It does, yeah.
Okay. So I've read that you love writing teen novels because you believe the emotions of those years are universal. Tell me about that. What gives you that feeling?
Certainly from talking to teenagers, I've had teenagers in my house for about 10 years in a row now, and I'm the mom that the kids talk in front of. So I can tell that the things that they go through now are, even though the kids are more worldly now than we were, the emotions behind everything are very, very much the same. And the teenage voice in my writing seems to come fairly naturally to me. I haven't had people complain that that's not how teenagers sound or think.
Do they know they're under observation when they're in your house, and then they might end up in a book? Their teen speak.
They do.
Okay.
Yeah, and occasionally.
And that doesn't make them more cautious.
It doesn't, surprisingly.
Okay.
Surprising. And they'll tell a story in the backseat of the car, and I'll say, I have to use that in a book. And they actually feel flattered by that more than threatened.
Do you ever send it to them when you're done and say, here's your story, look on page 56?
It's less direct than that.
Okay, yeah. All right. Okay. So you're also a member of the Society for Children's Writers and Illustrators. These books don't strike me as for children, right? These are for teen and young adult.
And teen and young adult counts as children's literature now.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So what have you gotten out of being part of that organization that you could recommend to other people who are interested in doing writing?
It's an excellent organization. Lynn Oliver founded it. She's still the head of it. It's an international organization. They have fabulous annual meetings, but also local meetings with chapters everywhere. And what you get by becoming an active member of what I call SCUBWE, because it's easier to say, is there at the conferences you learn about the craft of writing, and you learn about the business of writing, and you network with people on all steps, all rungs of the ladder. And so when I first started attending, there were people who were already published and ahead of me that reached a hand down. Now that I'm in this position, there are people a couple of steps behind me that I reach a hand down to and mentor and bring up. And you feel everybody moving along towards their goals of becoming a published author. It's really kind of inspirational.
All right. For the final question, you mentioned the mentoring process. What are the things that either you found most helpful from a mentor, or that you think have helped, or you've seen help people the most? Either one of those.
I think that the most helpful things I've received have been advice about persistence and optimism and the mindset that you need to have to become a published author. You'll learn your craft by giving your work to people and getting feedback, and by reading books about craft. But the kind of persistence it takes to keep going through 10 years of rejection, you can really only stand that if there's somebody standing next to you saying, don't worry, it's going to work. You're on the path. You're going to get there.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, Liz Coley, thank you very much for being here today on Writers Talk. I appreciate it. And again, the books are Pretty Girl 13, PG-13, and Out of Xibalba. And there they go. So, from the Center for the Study and Teaching of Writing at The Ohio State University, this is Writers Talk. I'm Doug Dangler. Keep writing.